Hawkman is the name of several fictional superheroes appearing in American comic books published by DC Comics. Created by writer Gardner Fox and artist Dennis Neville, the original Hawkman first appeared in Flash Comics #1, published by All American Publications in 1940. Several incarnations of Hawkman have appeared in DC Comics, all of them characterized by the use of archaic weaponry and by large, artificial wings, attached to a harness made from the special anti-H metal that allows flight. Most incarnations of Hawkman work closely with a partner, romantic interest named Hawkgirl or Hawkwoman. Hawkman is most often depicted as human archaeologist Katar Hol, the modern-day reincarnation of an ancient Egyptian prince named Khufu, or as alien police officer Katar Hol from the planet Thanagar. The character is generally regarded as having one of the most confusing backstories of any in DC Comics, due to a series of reinventions over the years following DC's 1985 series Crisis on Infinite Earths. Some writers have attempted to integrate Carter Hol and Katar Hol into one story by linking the Thanagarian aliens to the Egyptian curse that causes Hawkman to reincarnate periodically throughout human history, or by using Carter Hol as Katar Hol's alias, or otherwise depicting the merger of Carter and Katar into one being. The character has been adapted into other media numerous times, with significant appearances in the animated Justice League Unlimited cartoon, which featured Hawkgirl as a main character, as well as several DC Universe original animated movies. In live action, the character first appeared on screen in the two-part 1979 TV special Legend of the Superheroes by Bill Nuckles, appearing alongside Adam West and Burt Ward as allies Batman and Robin. Hawkman was later portrayed by Michael Shanks in Smallville and by Falk Henschel in the CW's Arrowverse family of shows, with both versions favoring the ancient Egyptian version of the character. Hawkman first appeared in Flash Comics #1, 1940, and was a featured character in that title throughout the 1940s. This Hawkman was Katar Hol, a reincarnation of the ancient Egyptian prince Khufu. Hol discovered that the mysterious ninth metal, later changed simply to anti-H metal, could negate the effects of gravity and allow him to fly. He donned a costume with large wings to allow him to control his flight and became the crime fighter, Hawkman. He also had a companion hawk named Big Red that assisted him in fighting crime. An archaeologist by profession, Hol used ancient weapons from the museum that he curated. Hawkman was a charter member of the Justice Society of America, beginning with All-Star Comics #3, Winter 1940. In issue #8 he became the JSA's chairman, a position he held until the end of the JSA's run in All-Star Comics in 1951. He was the only member of the JSA to appear in every adventure during the golden age of comic books. He romanced his reincarnated bride, Shira Sanders, who became the crime fighter Hawkgirl. His first 3 adventures were drawn by creator Dennis Neville, who modeled Hawkman's costume on the Hawkman characters in the Flash Gordon comic strip by Alex Raymond, then by Sheldon Moldoff, and later by Joe Kubert, who slightly redesigned his mask in Flash Comics #85, July 1947, and then, 1 year later, replaced the winged hawk-like mask with a much simpler yellow cowl in Flash Comics #98, August 1948. Along with most other superheroes, Hawkman's Golden Age adventures came to an end when the industry turned away from the genre in the early 1950s. His last appearance was in All-Star Comics #57, 1951. Later in the decade, DC Comics, under editor Julius Schwartz, decided to revive a number of heroes in new incarnations, but retaining the same names and powers. Following the success of The Flash and Green Lantern, Hawkman was revived in The Brave and the Bold #34, February-Mar 1961, this time as an alien policeman from the planet Thanagar, though his powers were largely the same. Created by Gardner Fox and Joe Kubert, this Hawkman, Katar Hol, came to Earth with his wife Shira in pursuit of a criminal, and decided to remain on Earth to study Earth police methods as well as fight crime. They adopted the names Carter and Katar Hol and became curators of a museum in Midway City. This Hawkman became a member of the Justice League of America in issue number 31, where he often verbally sparred with the iconoclastic liberal hero Green Arrow. In the 1960s it was revealed that the original Hawkman lived on the parallel world of Earth 2, and that Katar Hol lived on Earth 1. The JLA and JSA had an annual meeting throughout the 1960s and 1970s during which the two heroes often met. The Silver Age Hawkman had his own series for a few years in the 60s, but with declining sales it ended at issue number 27 and was then merged with that of the Atom. Atom and Hawkman lasted only another year or so before cancellation. In the late 1970s in Showcase and World's Finest Comics, Thanagar went to war with the planet Rann, the adopted home of Adam Strange. This led to Hawkman and Hawkwoman severing ties with their homeworld, and later fighting the Shadow War of Hawkman, written by Tony Isabella, as Thanagar tried secretly to conquer the Earth. The landmark 1985 series Crisis on Infinite Earths resulted in a massive revision of much DC continuity and led to many characters being substantially rewritten. Hawkman was to suffer some of the greatest confusion as successive writers sought to explain his various appearances. In the revised timeline there was a single Earth which had witnessed the JSA in the 1940s and the JLA decades later. Successive revisions sought to establish exactly who had been Hawkman and Hawkwoman at different stages. For the first few years the pre-crisis incarnations were still used, during which time they were prominent across the DC universe and joined the latest incarnation of the Justice League. DC decided to reboot Hawkman, in a limited series, which later led to an ongoing series, entitled Hawkworld originally by Tim Truman, and later John Ostrander. In this series, Thanagar was a stratified society which conquered other worlds to enrich itself. Katar Hol was the son of a prominent official who rebelled against the status quo. He and his partner Shayra were sent to Earth and remained there for some years until Hol was apparently killed. This created several continuity errors. Because the new Katar Hol had only just arrived on Earth, someone else had to have been Hawkman previously. In an attempt to resolve the problem it was established through retcons that the Golden Age Hawkman and Hawkgirl had continued to operate sporadically after their supposed retirement in 1951 through the 1990s, and that NTH metal originally came from Thanagar. The Hols, and not the Hols, joined the original incarnation of the JLA. Another Hawkman, Philander, a Thanagarian agent, had been the one who joined the Justice League during the 1980s, pretending to be a hero but secretly spying on the League for his Thanagarian masters. The Zero-Hour miniseries muddled the waters further by merging the different Hawkmen into a Hawkgirl, who was the focus character in the third volume of the monthly Hawkman series. This version of Hawkman also had a small role in the alternate future series Kingdom Come. After the end of this series, Hawkman's continuity was considered by DC to be too complicated, and he was absent from comics for several years. In the late 1990s, the JSA series untangled Hawkman's continuity, establishing him as Katar Hol, a man who, along with Shayra, had been reincarnated dozens of times since his life in ancient Egypt, and whose powers were derived from Thanagarian anti-H metal, which had been retroactively renamed from 9th metal. The Katar Hol of the Hawkworld series had also come to Earth during the 1990s, as previously established. The 1980s Hawkman Philander returned to Thanagar. The Hawkgirl was later revealed to be an avatar of the Hawk aspect of the Red, from which Animal Man receives his powers, and only believed that he was Hawkman. During the Identity Crisis miniseries, it was established that Hawkman, Katar Hol, had encouraged the mind wipe of Dr. Light and had actually been the one to initially suggest the idea. His role in the mind wipe was the basis for his enmity with Green Arrow, who felt that interfering with an individual's right to self-determination was beyond the moral right of any organization or government. Subsequently, Hawkman was reincarnated and given a new series in 2002 entitled Hawkman Volume 4, written initially by James Robinson and Jeff Johns, with art by Rags Morales. Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti took over writing duties during the third year of the series. In 2006, the series was retitled Hawkgirl with issue number 50 and given a new creative team, Walt Simonson and Howard Chaykin. This series was cancelled with issue number 66 in July 2007. Hawkman was a major character in the Thanagar War miniseries, which stemmed from events in Countdown to Infinite Crisis. During this time his continuity was further changed, see Katar Hol section below. The character then received a new series spinning out of Dark Knight's Metal, helmed by Robert Venditti and Brian Hitch. Katar Hol is an honored police officer on his home world of Thanagar. Along with his wife Shayra, they use the anti-gravity belts and their wings to fly and fight criminals. These were the tools of an elite police unit tasked to track and apprehend the most dangerous criminals. The pair were sent to Earth in 1961 to capture the shape-shifting criminal Bythe. Following this mission, they elected to remain on Earth to work with authorities in the United States and learn human police methods. The two adopted covers as a pair of museum curators, Carter and Katar Hol, and acted publicly as the second Hawkman and the second Hawkgirl, later Hawkwoman. Although initially depicted as surviving the crisis on Infinite Earths intact, Katar Hol was rebooted just a few years afterwards in a prestige format miniseries named Hawkworld, by Timothy Truman. A regular ongoing series of the same name followed, with writer John Ostrander joining Truman. Katar Hol, a young police officer on the planet Thanagar, rebels against the oppressive system of his planet and is sent into exile. He later escapes and uncovers a renegade police captain Bythe. As a result, he is reinstated into the force, given a new partner, Shayra, and sent on a mission on Earth, where he is the third Hawkman. In DC's The New 52 universe, Hawkman is Katar Hol but uses the name Carter Hol. In the days of ancient Egypt, Prince Khufu is engaged in a feud with his rival, the Egyptian priest Hatshepsut. The priest eventually captures both Khufu and his consort Shayra, and kills them using a cursed dagger of anti-H metal. Millennia later, in 1940, Khufu is reincarnated as American archaeologist Carter Hol, Shayra as Shira Saunders, and Hatshepsut as scientist Anton Heister. After touching the same anti-H metal dagger used to kill Khufu, Carter regains the memories of his former life and realizes Heister is the reincarnation of his ancient foe. When Heister kidnaps Shira, using a magic spell to draw her to his lair, Hol uses his newly refound memories to craft a gravity-defying belt using anti-H metal and a winged costume to become Hawkman. Carter successfully rescues Shira, Anton is killed by electrocution, and Carter and Saunders begin a romantic relationship. Carter Hol and Shira Saunders had a son together, named Hector Hol, who grew up to also have a superheroic identity as Silver Scarab and later adopted the mantle of Dr. Fate. Hector Hol was a member of the superhero groups Infinity Incorporated and the JSA, where he served alongside his father. The incarnation of Hawkman that first appeared in the 2011 DC Universe relaunch, The New 52, identifies himself as Carter Hol. All incarnations of Hawkman used the fictional ninth metal or anti-H metal to defy gravity and allow them to fly. The metal is in their costumes, belt, boots, and wings. Its abilities are controlled mentally. Their wings allow them to control their flight, though they can be flapped through use of shoulder motions. In most comic books, Hawkman is known to have slightly enhanced physical strength. The Golden Age Hawkman was also granted the ability to breathe underwater by the sea god Poseidon. He also discovered a hidden kingdom of sentient birds led by the Old One-Eye, who taught him their language and later sacrificed himself to save the Hawkman's life. 5. Among the leading birds was a hawk named Big Red who became a companion and even helped the Golden Age Hawkman solve crimes. The Silver Age Hawkman also had enhanced senses comparable to a hawk's. He, and sometimes the Golden Age Hawkman as well, were also able to converse with birds, though they could not command them in the same way that, say, Aquaman could command sea creatures. Hawkman also wore special contact lenses that allowed him to detect beams and radiation. 7. The Silver Age Hawkman also possessed a Thanagarian police spaceship and a variety of science-fictional weapons. All versions of Hawkman prefer to use archaic weaponry, particularly maces, nets, spears, and shields, rather than modern or futuristic weapons. The current incarnation prefers this in part because, having the memories of having lived through many past lives, he is more proficient in their use than with contemporary weapons. In Katar Hol's case, it was too dangerous to use Thanagarian weaponry since there was too great a chance they could be lost or captured and then used or duplicated on Earth. There is, however, one significantly unique weapon Carter employs occasionally, the Claw of Horus. Constructed of anti-H metal by Prince Khufu in ancient Egypt, it was delivered to the newly resurrected Katar Hol by the time-displaced Jay Garrick in JSA Book 3, The Return of Hawkman. Later, in Superman-Batman Book 1, Public Enemies, Hawkman used it to defeat Superman, using its anti-H metal to channel the Earth's gravitational field. As he explained to Superman, essentially, "I just hit you with the planet." All versions of Hawkman have shown enhanced levels of strength. The Golden Age Hawkman was said to have the strength of 12 men, but later that idea was dropped. Whereas the Golden Age Hawkman's strength appeared natural, it was later explained, with the Silver Age Hawkman, that the anti-H metal enables its wielders to carry great weights. The recent incarnation has interpreted this as the anti-H metal simply enhancing the strength of the user. Also, several JLA and JSA stories indicate that Thanagar has greater gravity than Earth, and that Thanagarians are naturally stronger than humans because they are adapted to it, similarly to how Atlanteans, for example Aquaman, are adapted to deep-sea pressures. It has also been explained in the JSA series that the anti-H metal greatly aids in healing, closing wounds almost instantaneously. One example is in the JLA story Crisis of Conscience, in issues 115 to 118. When Carter's arm is nearly severed during one part of the issue, but the wound has obviously closed and functionality returned by the end of the issue. The Atom has commented that Hawkman laughs at anything less than third-degree burns. The anti-H metal also regulates the body temperature of the wearer, preventing the need for heavy protective clothing while in high altitudes. It also has the property of radiating heat, which can be controlled to warm the wearer in colder climates.